Welcome back, party people, to the Hearthstone Global Games. My name's Dan Gaskin, and I've got Neil with me, and I've also got Lorinda as well.
Wow. Yeah, Neil the Murloc.
I heard this guy, like, I haven't seen him yet. When was he introduced? Week 3?
Raven introduced him a couple of weeks ago and then named him Neil. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe he's my happy alter ego or something. I don't know.
Someone has to be. Someone has to cheer you up. But I'm here for you, my friend. You know what else will cheer you up? Hearthstone.
Yes!
Sweden versus Indonesia, then. Any favourites immediately from what you're thinking? And of course, Indonesia, they're currently 0-2.
So, Sweden are the favourites going into this, but Indonesia are the team that have been doing really well. And also later on we have China versus Switzerland next up. So it's all Group A for the next like 2 or 3 hours. Sweden and again Alliance in Trinity Series as well have been struggling as a team unit. There's no reason for why that should be. They're an incredibly experienced team. And Indonesia kind of the opposite. No one had really heard of them going into this. And actually they just seem to gel as a unit. They seem really excitable. If they lose, they just get on with it. If they win, they get excited. It's fun to watch. It's going to be interesting to see how this one pans out.
Is there anything that you've noticed from Sweden that explains that, though? Like, why are they not there? Is it just a matter of they're not drawing well and they're not getting there? Or do you think it's down a little bit behind, a little bit of, like, preparation, perhaps?
It's hard to know. It's really difficult to know because, I mean, they're all such strong players. They all know each other really well. They all get on really well. So it's none of that stuff. So maybe they've just got a lot going on. Maybe have a couple of bad draws, but maybe it is a little bit down to the fact they are split in so many directions with HCT, with other big events.
So much to play.
Right.
So much to play for as well, but they should be playing for their country. Sweden, Paudos, Oskaka, Orange, and Show. And on the side of Indonesia, then, Neil.
Next up, Vertigo, Rezdan, and Liga Game Joth. Vertigo has been one of the most exciting players to watch in this event. His excitement and enthusiasm is contagious. It's one of those things you like to see him be happy.
I like contagious happiness. I'm hoping that my happiness is going to ooze off onto you.
Spread my happiness across the world, Dan.
So Indonesia, they're in an awkward position in the league table, 0-2. If they lose this one, they're 0-3. Yes, okay, that doesn't mean they're out, if I'm correct. If results go elsewhere, it could mean they're out. However, they are certainly going to want to be putting one on the board here.
Yeah, they're actually 1-2, but they beat somebody. They beat China at some point. But also they will be watching very closely, watching very closely on this match will be Bulgaria, because if Sweden lose this, Bulgaria become incredibly strong position, even though they're not playing today. If Sweden lose and if China lose later, basically 2 of the top 3 will be Indonesia and Bulgaria guaranteed. So we're starting to get some things, as you can see here. By the way it works out because of who's got who to go. If Sweden lose, you can see they drop all the way down. And if China also lose, because they're playing Switzerland, it actually means that Bulgaria are through. So the Bulgarians, who have also been another exciting team to watch, especially with Morgulad sort of leading from the front, that's going to be a match that they'll be tuning into closely.
So ignore everything I said.
I
had Indonesia written down as 0-2. Don't know why. They're actually 2-1. So they're actually in a very comfortable position. Yeah. And it's Sweden who need to be worried. And, well, that's the surprise then, I guess, that Indonesia have been able to pull this out of the groups when maybe some people would have been expecting them to be a little bit lower. Any kind of decks you're thinking, are you expecting the people to bring? Is there any kind of patterns that you've noticed? Or do you think it's just going to be the normal meta picks?
I think it'll be normal meta picks. I think Indonesia have recognised that maybe they need to be a little bit more aggressive just to level that playing field a bit. Like if you get an aggressive deck and, I mean, they're hard to play. There's a meme that they're not, but they are. But if you do get an aggressive deck with 4 of you discussing it with a good draw, you're going to beat anybody. Okay, next up's going to be going off with Paladin or Priest, and Show is going to be off with Warrior or a massive surprise.
Yeah, Warrior or Warrior for Show. Yes, okay. I mean, I spoke about this with Dan like 10 minutes ago. There is the possibility of a Warlock coming through, but you'd expect it to be Warrior. Quest Warrior is still the favourite. I wonder whether we're going to get a repeat, actually, of what we just saw in the first matchup earlier, that Paladin versus Warrior. Right. It's a matchup that we're getting more and more familiar with, to be honest. It's a matchup that perhaps we didn't expect to be so popular, but really in this meta, it kind of defines, for me, Ngoro.
Yeah, I think it's the one that we see a lot of. Players are getting better at playing both sides of the matchup. It's still very interesting if you can resist brawling, but Paladin slowly, a lot of them are getting just that little bit quicker. Move towards the aggro end for the large part, and that just puts so much pressure on the Warrior now. Yeah,
they found a way to kind of weave both the aggressive element of the deck as well as the late game. Right. We saw that in the previous series, the fact that they had the Tide Callers and the War Leaders and everything like that, but then they still had the Tyrians, the Drakes, two Tyrians, if you're lucky to get off the Stonehill Defender. And that's just so hard to deal with if you're the warrior, because you don't have the tools to get rid of the early game without brawls, and if you don't draw those brawls, then it becomes an awkward situation.
Right, and if you use the brawl too early, then you can't clear the way for your Rag hero power later on, and so much to do. And like you say, most aggro decks, if you get control of the board, it's like, oh yeah, we've done it, we've got control. Tyrion, what? That's not fair.
It's not fair to top out there, as we're now going to look at some of the players. Of course, Show, very well known, very popular streamer. Anything you know? I mean, what kind of accolades has Show got then that you can tell the viewers? Because I mean, this man's been around for quite a while now.
Quite a while. He got his first esports cash, according to my records, on 30th of September 2004.
Okay.
Which was in Warcraft 3 2v2s. Now that means if you were born on that day, you'd be 12, by the way.
Okay. I am, actually. I was born in 2004.
So you are indeed 12, by the way. Okay.
I actually think I won my first esports prize money in 2004 as well.
What were you playing?
Just another shooter game, you know.
Were you casting it at the same time?
No, I wasn't.
They say, hey, look what cards he's got. Oh, I know.
No, not quite. I wasn't as cool as Show. But yeah, I mean, this guy's been around for ages, and this is the surprising thing as to why Sweden are 1 and 2.
Right.
Like, I'd be expecting them to be at the top of this table. They still have the opportunity to get to the top of that table, but Indonesia do stand in their way first. It's going to be the Pirate Warrior from Show, though.
And possibly a slightly slower Murloc build with that Pyromancer in there. So the Warrior, a decent-sized favourite here, most likely.
I'd like to think so, especially if Nexo can't pick up the Stonehill defenders and just get those early taunts and stop this immediate pressure from Show in Sweden. It could spiral out of control. And it's not a bad start, of course, picking up Nazoth's first mate. Fiery War Axe to deal with any minions that Indonesia might play early as well.
Yeah, and Indonesia just don't have that one drop, which is so huge when you're going first. Obviously, I know, but if you pass turn 1, Pirates does a Pirates thing, then you just play a minion, and then Pirates like kills your minion, starts hitting you. It's not all over by any means. You can clear with the Pyro equality, for instance, but wow, Show would be in a really good position if Indonesia don't get started here.
I mean, and that Fiery War Axe is going to be massive as well. You play Nazoth's first mate, and they're thinking, okay, I can put a minion on the board, and you're going to have to trade in, and then you just immediately drop the War Axe. Very easy to deal with the opposing minion, and then you can continue to go face and deal with what they put on the board respectively, usually on turns 2 and 3. Follow that up with the Frothing Berserker as well, and you are in good stead.
Just to say again, all the teams are communicating with their other teammates, just because it looks like it's like 2.5 versus 1. If there's somebody in the corner of the screen there, I'm not quite sure. And Show on his own, they are communicating.
Yeah, he's not crazy. He's not talking to himself.
I mean, he is.
Oh, he is crazy.
But
okay.
he's probably talking to his team as well.
Oh, okay.
They're probably just telling him how crazy he is.
He actually doesn't realise his teammates are there. He thinks he's talking to himself, and it's all of his other personalities talking back to him.
Wow.
Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, I was just trying to clarify that.
You're just putting things into my mouth.
Hey,
words, hopefully.
Yeah, words. Well, Nazoth's first mate seems pretty strong here. I mean, your alternative, you don't really play a deckhand. The fact that you can follow up next turn with a deckhand or a Fiery War Axe just seems too strong. Yeah. But it's turns like this, Lorinda, where you don't want to immediately put something onto the board and waste time that you have, because you might want to be thinking about turns later.
Yeah, I'm just going to get on with it, I think, here. This War Axe is obviously good on turn 2.
Yeah, it is very good on turn 2. As I said, because it just deals with what might come down. It could be the Hydrologist. Picking up both Wicker Flame and the Stonehill Defender is huge for Nexo, because it's just going to be able to stop Show from immediately putting damage to the face.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky for them to organise their defences in terms of when do you want to play those, which order. Obviously, it will depend on the board state going into that turn. With the defender at the moment would be good, but obviously as soon as something like a huge Berserker comes down, you might want to change tack there. They've also got a problem where turn 4 currently is going to have wasted mana.
I don't like wasted mana.
No, not me.
I don't think many people do like
especially when you're trying to beat an incredibly efficient deck with an incredibly efficient draw.
And this is the thing, so we're saying, like, yeah, okay, the Pirate Warrior is in good stead, and there's not been a one-drop for the Paladin. However, the fact you've got Wicked Flame, you've got Stonehill Defender, you've got Spike Ridge Steed later on, that's so much that the Pirate Warrior has to get through, and that's the worry for me.
Yeah, drawing the Steed gives Indonesia just a game plan. The game plan is don't die by turn 6 and we probably win. Actually, it's don't be below 5 by turn 6 and we probably win.
Yeah.
So you expect that 4 can just go to your face at any time through that taunt. But that's 12 points of health, and also the way Warrior delivers its damage is very inefficient. Quite often to get through a 2-6, you have to hit it for 5 plus 4, which is probably 9.
Probably.
Might be. And then you're obviously wasting 3 more damage, and despite the fact the damage that Warrior can do is a lot, you don't really want to be wasting damage, so the Spike Ridge Steed, absolutely huge, but they've got to get there. And this hand, honestly, from show is absolutely fantastic. Oh my goodness.
Even better now. Do you coin out Berserker and trade here? I think I like that.
Yeah.
I want to get as much damage as possible on the board now.
Yes.
As you said, before that turn 5, before that turn 6, there could be Ivory Knights in this deck. There could be ways of Indonesia just to get their health total back up to an annoying amount for the Warrior. So I'm okay with this. I like putting the frothing down.
One thing that you can see here as well from Indonesia, they took that noble sacrifice. They're hoping that by turn 4, I mean, they're hoping there's nothing on the board, but in the real world where Pirate Warrior lives and breathes and kills people, they're hoping to play that noble sacrifice on a turn where it'll actually save them like 5 health. They're going to try and get rid of this 1-1 weapon, they're trying to get rid of the small minions, and then if there is still a big problematic minion like a Frothing Berserker or maybe a Captain or something, they're going to save more than just the 2-1's worth of damage. They're hoping to save a big chunk of damage. So they've saved that planning for turn 4, hopefully for them, maybe even turn 5.
Haldor Peacekeeper is a good pickup here. I mean, it's nice to use it onto the Frothing Berserker. It's always frustrating using it on a Berserker because, of course, they can just get their damage back up again later. But dealing with this immediate 5 damage seems like a good option here for Indonesia. Their only other option is what? Pyromancer plus Noble Sack, but that doesn't seem great because your Pyromancer then just dies.
Right, and they'll be hoping to do 3 damage into this Berserker while it's still small again, no matter how Show decides to make it a little bit larger. And then next turn they can Pyromancer, Noble Sack, and maybe even clear the board, depending again. They're hoping that Show's got a weak hand, and they're going to be a little bit disappointed, I think. But yeah, they're just trying to buy themselves time to get to this turn 6.
I suppose Pyromancer and Noble Sack could have worked, because naturally you'd have to trade your face into the Noble Sack, and then the Frothing would actually die if you wanted to trade into the Pyromancer, but that might be too much damage that you're taking to the face. So instead, the nice safe option from Indonesia. Now, Show has the option of probably Fiery War Axe plus Deckhand.
Yeah, Fireworks Deckhand looks alright, as does the other Frothing if they want to just trade away into this 3-3. Leave yourself a... How big would it be? It'd be like a 5-1 Berserker and a 7-4 Berserker or something. So that'll leave you with a board that's not easy to deal with. And then keep the War Axe in your hand. But yeah, they're going to go for that option, the War Axe option. It makes a lot more sense this way.
I guess putting down anything to below 3 HP is a worry against a 4-mana Paladin, with Consecration being a possibility.
Yeah, this seems fine. And now they're going to get that Noble Sack down, and they're not going to get the Noble Sack down because it's useless.
Yeah, and suddenly that Haldor Peacekeeper just seems pointless. Like, what have you done? You just put a 3-3 body on the board that got traded, and yes, okay, it's not a 5-4 Berserker, but now it's a 4-4 Berserker. I mean,
and they're well aware about this Noble Sacrifice. They've kept themselves something small to attack in with, which is saying, you know what? We know what your game is.
So perhaps, I can't decide what's better here, out of Stonehill Defender plus Noble Sack or Wicker Flame plus Noble Sack, but either feels pretty poor, to be honest, Neil.
Pretty poor, just
but
like me.
It's just a... it's just a matter of getting to that turn 6, having something on the board, then you've got the Steed, and then you start to stabilize.
Yeah, they might play the Defender now. It's probably pretty close, but if they can get any sort of buff on the Wicker Flame, it's representing a lot more health gain than the Stonehill is. But this is immediate health gain right now, and they're feeling that maybe they haven't got enough time to do anything but. And the only problem with this play is, after the fairly easy-looking clear from Show, there's no turn 5 that is any good.
Yeah, and meanwhile, that Frothing Berserker is going to be frothing even more and becoming even scarier, and still no way to deal with it for Indonesia as well. That was why, if I go back to the turn 3 play, Pyromancer plus Noble Sacrifice may have worked out for them. It might have been able to deal with the Frothing Berserker a little bit better. They may have had to trade it in. They may have not.
Yeah, I think they were hoping that Sweden would sort of lose their 1 health guys, and Sweden have just sidestepped and gone, you know what? No.
Yep, every single time there's been an answer from Show here.
Yeah, we went back to the experience of Show and the rest of the team earlier. So Show also was a StarCraft pro at some point, so he's used to having to sidestep not unusual stuff, but sidestep things that your opponents are doing that you can't see.
Quick decision making as well in StarCraft. However, we're going to see the rope coming out from Sweden because there are several people probably screaming at each other, trying to work out which is the best play here.
Apart from Moskaka, I don't think he does much screaming. I think he just waits and watches and views and screams if something's wrong.
Okay, so the fact that they played the other Berserker means that they cannot get any damage to face this turn.
Look how much damage they're setting up for next turn, though.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's just a whole lot.
We need an equality here, basically.
You're Indonesian now, are you?
I'm everyone. I'm everyone collectively. I am the world, Neil.
You are the world. I mean, you just became American after we lost to America in week 1.
That's true.
So, you know.
Although theoretically, I was born there. And I say theoretically, I was actually born there. There's no theory
born
about it.
somewhere.
Consecration does deal with 2 of these minions, Neil. But is that enough?
It doesn't allow you to set up a minion to play your steed on, but are there any other options, really?
No. You
Thanks, Dan.
You just flat out consecrate this and say, okay, well, I'm going to be looking at what, a 10-2 Frothing Berserker that I'm just going to try and deal with next.
I just imagine you sitting there with Nexoc now in an Indonesian team room. Any other options, guys? Nope.
Nope. Done.
Get on
Play
with
it.
Right. And he did?
He did. Okay.
He listened to you from afar. Okay, so that's going to be 1 huge Frothing Berserker, but it is only 1 threat now, which we talked about earlier. 1 threat is annoying, but much easier to deal with than multiple wide threats, and oops.
Oh, wow. Now you can just play Fiery War Axe and Dread Corsair.
Yeah, and set up.
You could play Heroic Strike as well and just put as much damage to the face as possible, but I do kind of like keeping the Heroic Strike just to get through any taunts that might come up.
So they could hit face for 17 if they went that route, which doesn't really help you set up the Mortal Strike. If it puts your opponents down even below that, then sure. I think at this point you want as many threats on the board as possible, because next turn Indonesia are going to have to make minions. They're going to have to put stuff on the board. So you're going to need stuff to remove that and set up your turn 7. And you're only really scared of Spike Steed. And obviously, it's a long way off, but you'd be scared of Tyrion as well. But really, this is over by turn 8, one way or the other.
I'm wondering whether Show needs to play the Corsair this turn, because he could save it for next turn and then guarantee the value from the Bloodsail Cultist.
Okay, we see this a lot in Hearthstone Global Games. Teams getting to the rope and then just doing the bit that is obvious. I am definitely hitting you with this Frothing Berserker.
Yeah.
So let's do that while we carry on making the decision.
Yeah, I think there's no reason not to put the Dread Corsair on the board there.
Right.
I mean, yes, okay, they could have waited, but just having that extra block in case, I don't know, something like a Bluegill comes off the top for next zone. Might not even be in the deck, but, you know, those Murlocs do appear. Nothing's really helping there, though, Neil. Stonehill Defender.
Into a second Burn Bristle.
Into dead. That would just about keep you alive. Yeah, that would just about
and then your Berserker goes to 4 and 3. I'm not even sure.
No, they'll keep you alive. There's too many minions to get through, but...
So that's it then.
That's their route.
And then if they get the Burn Bristle, then next turn is also going to be awkward.
Heyo. There he is. He's there.
There he is. See?
You don't dirty rat, that's for sure.
Yeah, I have some more things to kill me with.
Yeah, Wicker Flame keeps you alive because...
Does Mugashun do more is what they're thinking. It doesn't, but they're thinking 7 health versus 4 health plus whatever. Alright, so they're life one more turn. Probably they are.
They are indeed.
Gaskin saying it couldn't be done. What a pessimist. Me, known for my optimism, of course.
You are one of the most optimistic men I've ever met, Neil.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. And I'm also one of the most sarcastic you've ever met. So I'm
Indeed.
glad we're on
I was thinking that was one of the most optimistic statements I've ever heard.
So yes, Sweden cannot quite finish this one off.
It's going to be mighty close, though. And we may even have added it up wrong yet.
No, we haven't. They can't get through it.
Bosh. All right. So, important turn. Can they find a spell to trigger this Pyromancer?
Stampede Encoder is not a spell. Doesn't deal with anything.
Can they get through the Spike Ridge twice?
They can't even put a Spike Ridge down.
That's a fair point. So
Yeah, that's
yes,
game.
would have done.
So, enough early threat from Sweden with the Pirate Warrior then. We said there was a lot of taunts available for Indonesia, but unfortunately the Frothing Berserkers just got out of control, as they did. The Consecration came down, but there was no equality. If equality had come through, that might have been huge.
Yep.
They may have been able to stabilize, but in the end, Paladin was too slow for Mr. Face Warrior.
Yeah, the deck that just won't go away, basically. Every time someone drops the crabs out of their decks, like, oh, I'm Pirate Warrior, I'm going to start hitting you again. Just can't get rid of those pesky pirates.
Pesky pirates, they're always getting in the way. Game number 2, then, is what we're going to go into. We're going to see what decks are going to be played by both of these players. And to be honest, when you're 1-0 up after getting a victory with Pirate Warrior, you always feel comfortable because it's a deck that can be risky to bring because you know how control-heavy this meta is and how scary it can be against all of those taunts. But again, we're going to have Mage versus Mage. This is like a mirror of what we've just saw in the first series. We had Paladin Warrior, and then we had Mage versus Mage. And I've already had this discussion with Dan, but I'm going to have it with you as well, Neil.
Okay, excellent.
We're talking about how Mage has developed over the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
And of course, Discover Mage became very popular, but then people were like, it's a little bit slow though. And that's now where we've started to see Secret Mage. Do you think we might see some Secret Mage today?
I think we will. Secret Mage is like a really broad set of stuff now, though, because people have started putting Medivh into Secret Mage. They're like, okay, we took all the slow stuff out and we made a Secret Mage, and then it's like, we're missing some of our slow stuff. So now there's Secret Mages with all manner of things. People haven't settled on what they think is a good build yet. And so it'd be interesting to see what they go with.
It's kind of in the middle, isn't it? It's trying to find that middle ground between Discover and Secret. But there are your players, Orange and Liga Game Joth. I mean, any interesting facts, Neil?
Having a quick look through my fact notes. I mean, Liga Game Joth, his feedback form broke the spreadsheet.
Oh.
It's like he just did everything. He's consistent legend, top 12 APAC Summer, top 16 at Time Malaysia Majors. That's just in Hearthstone. Then was a pro junior chess player for his country. He's played many other games, including StarCraft 2. And he wants to be, who doesn't, like me, a national hero.
Oh, well, maybe if he wins the Hearthstone Global Games, he can be one.
Yeah, maybe he can. And a lot of the Indonesia team, a lot of the team's players said this, but you sort of feel it through the screen with Indonesia. They've been really excitable and happy all the way here. But yeah, his feedback form was like 10 times bigger than anybody else's. So he's excited and he's got a lot to say about it.
Yeah, you've got to be proud about your own achievements and
maybe he can
quite rightly put them forward. Maybe he could sit where? Here? There's no room. There's no chair there, Neil.
We can make
put him here instead.
We can make one.
Okay, game number 2 then. We're going to have the Mage off. And actually, this is interesting. Faceless Summoner for Liga Game Joth.
And Antonidas as well.
Yeah,
people are sort of messing with different cards to make this all work. And Orange looks like he might be playing the Discover Mage, but again, there's so much overlap now, I wouldn't want to nail to it, but the Courier's a fairly big pointer to
It is a Discover card, Neil.
It is indeed a Discover card. So in the HCT playoffs, just going through, Sho didn't play Mage, Osaka didn't play Mage, Powder played Secret Mage with Pyros in it.
Okay.
This probably isn't either. And Orange missed out by 1 point. So he's got a point to prove.
Just the one.
Just 1 point to prove.
Yeah, it's understandable. But so this is the Secret variant from Liga, but
Job's done.
As you said, everyone's just trying, testing, dipping cards in and out, trying to find what's comfortable, what's been successful for them, what's won them games on ladder, what's won them games in tournament play. Mana Worm off the top is pretty big here.
Yeah, I was just about to say, this is why this deck from Indonesia is not necessarily the best deck in Hearthstone, because it's so inconsistent. There's a Mana Worm, everything changes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they were going to plod along, play an Ice Block into a Crystal Runner, and probably not generate enough pressure, but now, Mana Worm... Yeah, that's some pressure they're going to generate. Just a little bit.
They're all having a giggle because they're hovering over their cards saying, we're pretending we're going to do something else, but really...
But actually, we're just going to Mana Worm.
It's going to be a Mana Worm because it's come off the top, guys.
Nice.
For Orange, pretty good start though as well. Archaeologist, obviously a solid 2-drop. The 2-3 bodies that the Discover Mage can put on the board are a nuisance, to be honest. There does just get a position where you have 3 or 4 2-3 bodies that your opponent's like, well, how on earth do I deal with these?
Yeah, when we first started discussing this deck back in the dawn of this meta, which is a month ago. Yeah, time. I mean, everything's the dawn of time for me, I'm afraid, these days. We used to talk about how these 2 and 3 points of damage you can just get into the opponent's face really mattered, even though your deck was built to just go Alex you, pyro your face. A lot of the time you just use these 2 points of damage to win the game. But it's going to go the other way here. Indonesia are going to get control of this board, and it's going to be very difficult for Sweden ever to gain any traction, because they're going to have to just keep killing stuff. Yeah, Orange's expression says it. I think we have to fireball this, but if we frostbolt this. But if we frostbolt it, then next turn they're just going to play more stuff, and we're getting behind here.
Yeah, I think you do have to consider a frostbolt. You could go for the ballsy play of Glyph into hoping for another frostbolt maybe, and you've still got that frostbolt in hand. For Indonesia, I guess the fact is they haven't got much to follow up. Yes, they've got Medivh Valet, but no secret in play at the moment. I like the play from Orange here, getting the secret on the board so that he can use Medivh Valet and Frostbolt next turn, depending on what comes down. We've just said there's a hell of a lot of 2-3s that come here and there, so why not deal with both if there's going to be more on the board?
Right, I'm playing the block, not the barrier, just because it's now a permanent block. Not only could guarantee the Valet next turn, but it just is going to be there the whole game, so activating any other Valets or other secret activated cards, like Watchers. Ooh. Later on.
Or Eater of Secrets we've seen as well.
Yeah, the Eater of Secrets.
Yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it?
You were excited about that,
I was, because everyone hates that card, and when it comes through at the right moment, it just rubs even more salt in the wounds.
So you weren't supporting the underdog with the card, you were just rubbing salt into wounds?
I just gobble up salt, to be honest.
So I hear.
Yes, indeed. Medivh Valet now is going to get the value. And Frostbolt's there as well if he wants to use it. I mean, you have got the option of just using the Frostbolt and then going face, but I don't really like it. Yeah. So I prefer just glyphing first.
And this is the turn they set up last turn, where they want to get this Valet down and reserve the Frostbolt for later use, because you may require it for some of the bigger minions coming up. It's obviously very efficient to just Frostbolt this, but I think you just Valet it, therefore I think you glyph. Finding a place to glyph is really weird in this deck. You want to glyph as late as possible to have as much information as possible to know what to pick, but also that turn just doesn't always come. So if you're on turn 4 and you want to glyph, that can be fine if you can get it in there now.
So something that the reason why this isn't a straightforward play is because he doesn't know what the secret is. It could be Mirror Entity, it could be Counterspell, so he's trying to find out the most efficient way of working around this. It's not Mirror Entity now, so he knows he doesn't have to Frostbolt anything. Now we'll check to see if it's Counterspell. It's not, so that will give him a good idea of what this secret is.
And he gets his own secret nonsense. Yeah, I think he'll take this Mirror Entity really powerful against these decks, but the Crystal Runner's just going to be a bit too quick. But it might catch a Burgly Bully with a Mirror Entity. That'd be quite a good catch.
Would be. I mean, unfortunately, they're not going to play the Crystal Runner here anyway.
Okay.
And that's not the best of choices either. Did you just take a barrier? No, okay.
So missiles for 9 points of damage later if they can get the board cleared. Those choices were... How soon do you want to use your choice, basically, was the decision there. They could have even picked the like huge damage spell, just kill Medivh with that later on. But they're going for a win now.
So they know this isn't Counterspell. They know it's not Mirror Entity. So they have a good idea it's either barrier or block, right?
Yeah.
Could be Spellbender, actually.
It could be Spellbender. In fact, Spellbender has the highest win rate in your opening hand of all of the secrets.
Wow.
By a long way. Spellbender in your opening hand is a 59.8% win rate. Compared to Counterspell, it's only 53.8%. So there's like a 6% difference between keeping Spellbender and Counterspell in your opening hand.
That's I mean, I'm in awe.
You look flabbergasted, don't you?
I'm in awe.
Yeah.
That's a nice stat.
I think it's because you always play around Counterspell.
Well,
you don't always play around Spellbender.
And why don't we see more Spellbender in decks then? Because
I don't know.
It's usually only picked up from the Discover mechanic that we do see those spells.
Yeah, just the occasional one. I think that's the point. I think because it's occasional, people just go, oh, I'm just going to casually Blessing of Kings this to test for Counterspell. Oh, no, I lose.
Yeah, you do lose the game. Spike Ridge Steed is always a punishing one as well. Secrets instead of using the Frostbolts for Orange here. Not putting the Mirror Entity down, though, so he's not going to get the value if Burgly Bully does come on through for Indonesia.
Yeah, both of these teams playing this game where Sweden are just trying to get to the late game. If they can start picking up Medivh, start picking up Alex Straza, start picking up all their burn, which they're starting to assemble, by the way. They protected that Frostbolt right at the start. It's still there. And their hand now has a total of, 14 burn? So it's getting there slowly but surely. And slowly but surely as well, Indonesia's hand is emptying. I think it's a shame they haven't found time to get this Crystal Runner onto the board. They're hoping to get it down for 2 mana is the thing.
Yeah. Definitely playing it. I mean, a 4-mana 5/5 is decent, but apparently not good enough. Do you meteor this? Is it overkill?
It certainly gets them off the board. The thing with Tempo Mage is it rarely has a huge number of minions on the board. It tends to operate on 2 or 3 annoying ones, and this is certainly fitting the bill of 2 annoying minions. I think Sweden will be counting their damage and thinking, well, we can Fireball Frostbolt, but that's 9 damage gone out of our hand. And I think they'll probably conclude that they can deal with any minion in the deck of the opponent, so they might as well Meteor. But again, that means they then can get down the Mirror, which they'll be looking to get down sooner rather than later.
I like the Meteor. You clear the board, you've got the Firelands Portal to follow up to deal with anything that might come on on the board from Indonesia. As you said, it was just, whilst it didn't look particularly pretty, it was just one of those turns where it worked.
Yeah, sometimes what works is actually good, oddly enough.
It's good. Doesn't have to be flashy.
So second mana Worm, Crystal Runner. I still think that a 4-mana 5/5 early-ish in the game is better than a 2-mana 5/5 on turn 1,000,000 when your opponent's established and willing to deal with it. Even though you need to be efficient with Tempo/Secret Mage, I just feel they should get this on the board and get on with it, rather than trying to save that mana for later. It's a little bit. It has a different function to, like in Shaman, where you're trying to get a 0-mana 5/5. That has taunt and defend you. This doesn't. This is an attacking weapon.
So more to deal with. The Firelands Portal does deal with the Crystal Runner very juicily. But you are still leaving a mana worm on the board, but I guess you're not too worried about that, really. I mean, what are your alternatives? Again, you as you said in the previous turn, you've got the Fireball Frostbolt option, plus Mirror Entity if you wanted to go down that route. But that is potential damage. That's burn damage that could go to the face.
Sweden are still on 30, so maybe they'll split the difference. Maybe we'll see an Arcane Intellect and then a Fireball just to get rid of the immediate threat. They know they can Frostbolt this Mana Worm at any point. No, they're just going to go for the Tempo Swing. Okay, sure. That's also a pretty efficient play in the world where you don't get a 4/2.
Unfortunately, one of the worst 5 drops, though. Not the worst, though, so they won't be particularly tearing their hair out. I would never want to see Orange tear his hair out. Fantastic hair, that man.
I know. I was talking to you about that earlier, actually. It's like, yeah, that's your hair rival in life.
I would never have a hair rival, but if anyone was going to better me for my hair, I'd happily allow Orange to do that.
You say that he's not even rivaling your hair, but you'd let him if he wanted to.
No, as in, I wouldn't even get into a competition with his hair.
I see.
Like, he has just surpassed anyone's hair levels.
Wow.
Indeed.
Dan Gaskin, the hair commentator / judge / caster.
I'm a bit of everything, Neil. Finally, one of the missiles does hit. Might have been a little bit awkward if they'd all gone face there, but...
Yeah, one of those situations where, you just have to trust maths. Like casters do.
I don't trust caster math.
Just a long, hard
anyway.
experience of being a caster and watching casters. Okay, so Sweden now have 1 turn to kill. And they're just going to pick up some cards and see what happens. It's not really what they wanted right now. They're looking for a little bit more burn so they can just Alex Strauss the opponents. Obviously, the first one to proc the block wins. It's like, when they've both got a block, it's like nobody's got a block. You just sort of trade blocks and then...
And we saw Orange pick up the Mirror Entity rather than the Ice Block, and sometimes having that third Ice Block can just flat out win you the game.
It can, yeah. It just buys you that extra turn to kill their second block.
But he picked it up for a tempo play. Unfortunately, he hasn't gained much tempo out of it just yet. It does have a surprise factor, however, though. Indonesia will be well aware that's a secret that has been picked up from the glyph, so when he does play it, that makes the turn a little bit more awkward for Indonesia.
Yeah, they just haven't managed to... I mean, they haven't had the chance, other than maybe the Meteor turn, where we thought Meteor was just better anyway, to drop this Mirror Entity, and they've sort of missed the boat a little bit with it. All the mid-game threats have come and gone, and now they're down to, I'm going to steal this 2/3 Valet.
Yeah, well, actually, with the Valet coming off the top 4, look at here, it's huge, because if he had just had to Firelands Portal, it would have been an awkward turn because he wouldn't have known if he's playing around Counterspell or what, but Medivh's Valet is a safe play to start with, and it immediately shows you it is a mirror entity as well, which makes future turns even easier.
Yeah, and somehow Indonesia keeping up on cards as well. Normally by now you're pretty much all in on cards, but even though it feels like they're keeping up, I still get this feeling that Sweden have got this under control to some degree, with the Alexstrasza, with the burn in hand, with the second block, with the intellect, all 4 cards. I just read out their hand. What an amazing caster I am. Here are the cards that you can all see in plain view.
You are the cream of the crop, Neil. Come on.
All 4 of those cards just seem to be significantly better than the hand of Indonesia, one of which is the coin.
Oh, Potion of Polymorph. So if Counterspell wasn't an awkward enough secret to put down because you're worried about Mirror Entity being on the board, now we've got Potion of Polymorph that if Alexstrasza if it is played on the board, then that's such a huge pickup for Indonesia.
And this is where it's somebody in the Swedish team's job to shout, they know it's our turn 9, be very careful, because it's a secret you just forget about if you're not careful. They'll all be scared of Entity as well anyway.
Yeah, Entity is scary enough as it is, which automatically makes you think, I don't want to play Alexstrasza, so then you start considering, well, how do I test for this? Perhaps it's an Arcane Intellect turn. Okay, it's not a counterspell. Now we've got a better idea.
Yeah, and also maybe pick up a minion like the second Mana Worm or something. We can stick that on the board, test for the Mirror Entity, and get it Potion Polymorphed, and be really, really relieved that we didn't just Alexstrasza. On the other hand, if they think they can just get it done with Alexstrasza before they die, which looks a bit sketchy to be fair, then they could also go for that.
Does look very sketchy. I guess one of the ways they could consider it is saying, okay, we put Alexstrasza on the board. It's like they're playing a polymorph next turn.
Right.
I mean, would we be really annoyed at ourselves if they polymorph this from their hand? Because realistically, 4 mana at this stage in the game isn't that huge when they don't have much in their hand anyway.
And they're just going for it. They think they can get it done. And they're going to be sort of disappointed here, but also I think it's better for them than a mirror in a lot of ways, because that's 8 damage that would have just smashed them in the face. And now they're just trusting that they've got enough burn in the deck. Somebody will have done the math they think it's correct. And they're just going to go for the burn, burn, ping option.
That sounds like a song.
Burn, ping.
Yeah.
I heard it. It's like a Twice song, I think.
If it's not a song, I'm going to write it anyway.
Yeah, Twice will do that for you.
And Indonesia, again, the Water Elemental is showing up. It's something that has been teased.
Yeah, it's
with
another of those.
Secret Mage. It's just another one of those cards that people can pick and choose. There seems to be like 4 maybe slots that people are kind of interchanging between these decks.
Yeah, Ethereal Arcane is another card. Occasionally you see Avian Watcher, is it called? The 5-drop you sometimes see. Then we saw the Faceless a minute ago as well in their opening hand. There's 1 or 2 other bits and pieces. But basically whatever you like between turns 4 and 6, you tend to just lob it in there and see if it works.
I was looking at Abysmal Enforcer. I can't actually see what minion was left in the middle, but it's not going to deal with the Water Elemental, that's for sure. Forbidden Shaping just seems a risk.
The thing with the Enforcer, it does do 3 damage to face as well.
It does. Yeah.
Which, I mean, it does it to your own face, which is obviously a bit sad. But when Sweden went for the aggressive Alexstrasza a minute ago, they set out their stall to, we can kill you twice before you kill us twice. Sticking with the twice theme.
It was the Arcanologist that was in the middle as well. So yeah, I mean, seems like a fairly strong pickup. Does just put them down to 12.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. 12 to 15. And this is it. Again, Sweden will know there's just a coin and a card left in Indonesia's hand. And with double Ice Block, they'll be hoping to get this done.
Ooh. So do you Medivh? They know it's not Mirror Entity. They probably have a good idea that that is a counterspell that is down now as well as the Ice Block.
Also important-ish is that it's very, very hard for them to be procced on a low number next turn, I think. Actually, no, Fireball, ping, no, it really isn't hard. It's actually really straightforward. Fireball, hit you for 4, ping. Yeah, that procs you on 1. Take it back. It's really easy to be procced on 1. So, factoring that in, how many turns have they got? If they're procced next turn, they can block again, then they can be procced the turn after. So they've got 3 turns to kill their opponents twice.
So do they have to use this Frostbolt as a defensive option? Of course, the counterspell will ruin that plan, but
I think if they do that, they'll play Medivh first, and not because it's not going to be a long game from this point. So you don't really necessarily want to save your Medivh for a huge pyro. You just want to get something on the board. But they're testing for that counterspell this way, and now they're just going to run their opponents out of cards. Again, they know one of those cards is the coin in hand, so they feel that Medivh and Ice Block versus random card is in front.
I think they'll also have a good idea of what the secret is when it comes down, because the fact that's been sat in the hand for a while, they'll be saying, okay, it's most likely a counterspell because we've only just got rid of the counterspell.
Right. Very good point.
Which may even be a reason why Indonesia don't even play it, to be honest.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see, but I don't think they've got a choice.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
But Sweden should be comfortable enough, and the Mana Worm now means that even if it was perhaps a mirror entity, they can play for that first.
And now a proc would be on a bad number.
Yeah.
I got there in the end.
You did? It's okay.
I'm from the future. That's all it is. Actually, I'm from the past. The very distant past.
I don't even know if television was invented when you were born, Neil.
Yeah, I do. I'm not answering that.
Okay, great.
So...
You're into mages, and it's not helpful.
Yeah, this is the downside of Kirin to a Mage. The reason it's playable is because a 4-3 for 3 isn't actually bad stats. It's just a bad shape. You'd much rather it be 3-4, so it can survive things, but... Wait, what? I like it when the graphics do that. It's like, yeah!
I'm going to ping my own
Well,
face.
is there a reason to ping your own face? I doubt it, but sometimes it's the play. No, there just isn't. Sometimes it is the play to protect yourself on a huge number. With a Mana Worm there that can be made any number they like, it's like, no, pinging your own face doesn't seem good.
No, yeah, just the graphics. No way to pop the ice block, and now Sweden have the chance to draw for damage to pop Indonesia's and put themselves in the driving seat. If they don't, they can still trade if they wanted to.
If they draw any spell at all, they can proc the block. This is right on the edge for both teams here. Reminder that if Sweden lose this, they're not out, but they're no longer in their own hand. Even if they won next week, if they lose this one, they don't know how they stand. If Indonesia win this, then they are almost through, and they'll be relying on other results to guarantee it, but they will have a chance to put themselves through next week.
Do you ping your own acolyte?
I think you do. I think you do.
You've got to start searching. You're still in a relatively comfortable position.
Yeah, but you've got that extra block. That's the thing that's just saving you a bit of time here.
Archaeologist can pull one more counterspell? Mirror Entity?
Ice Barrier? But some people only play one Ice Barrier, and they've already played one early on. Back a long time ago at the start of this War of Attrition. It's interesting how these two decks kind of cancel, especially the Secret Mage, which is quite aggressive. When it runs out of stuff, it has just enough to keep on trundling. But I think you play the Archaeologist because you're going to play the Secret if you don't, so you might as well have a choice of secrets. Well, perhaps they don't want to give away there's no secrets left.
That's why I'm wondering, is there a secret left?
There is not.
The answer is no, as you quite rightly said. No other barrier to work with either. Unfortunately, they can't pop, so...
Hit with the weapon as well?
Interesting.
Yeah, they just had no play there.
I mean, they did have the option of trading in and taking out the 5-5 and hoping that the damage couldn't have popped them. That was my only consideration.
Yeah.
There. Obviously, the Firelands Portal coming off the top for Indonesia is massive. In that instance, if they had have had the 5-5 traded, but...
So obviously the plan here is they get procced, they proc their opponent, and play their own block, and hope the opponent doesn't have another block. Which they won't have, almost certainly. So it's looking like Sweden are going to sort this one out.
It's going to entirely depend if they do have a second ice block, I guess. Or if they draw...
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't, but they could draw into something like a Babbling Book, which could help. Glyph could help.
Yeah.
Have they used both Glyphs? They've used one.
They've definitely used one. Maybe they used two. Maybe they did use two. One was a potion of polymorph.
Things down.
I thought that's what you were doing. I haven't got any space to write things down because I research so hard.
You do research pretty hard.
Something like that. But yeah, Sweden have got a lot of draws to do this.
That might throw a little bit of a spanner in the works.
Yeah, they need to make sure they proc, otherwise they definitely don't win.
Yeah. So even if something came out for Indonesia to help out, Corrupted Healbot isn't going to help.
Okay, so it's just the straightforward stuff now. They did need to draw a spell so they can get around the counter spell. Forgot to point that out. They have drawn a spell to get around the counter spell. So as long as Orange doesn't do something crazy here and play the ice block first, they're looking good.
So actually that polymorph was massive, is what you're saying, Neil.
No, they had the ping on the Acolyte plus a trade with the Acolyte. They were going to draw a spell. I had it under control. I just didn't convey that information to the world. Good job, that's not my job.
Exactly. But yeah, now they can play the ice block. They've got rid of it. They can pop the block, and then they just pray that there is no other ice block for Indonesia, which there shouldn't be. Usually the secret mage just runs the one. But you never know with the tech indecisions.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen an Antonidas, I think they had in their mulligan as well, which means they might play a second block just to buy some extra time. It's unlikely, but again, we've already seen Eater of Secrets today, which is a card that you sometimes see, but is also unlikely. There's a spell, there's some stuff. And just make sure you proc it. There's one of your favourite cards, the old Pantry Spider, coming out.
It was my favourite card back in the day. I say back in the day.
Back in the day. Back when I was a lad and I had a pantry. We used to talk to the spiders.
Because of Evolve. Evolve Shaman was cool. Which apparently is a thing nowadays. But Pyros is not an ice block. So that means Sweden will be 2-0 up. Sweden, who have been somewhat struggling so far, just 1-2, putting themselves in a fantastic position to win this series, going 2-0 up. And you can see Orange shaking his head, saying that better not be a blooming ice block.
Yeah, and it better not be an Eater of Secrets.
Yeah, that would be even worse.
An Eater of Secrets in your secret mage, that'd be, let's check for the mirror.
I mean, it's basically what happened earlier, right?
Okay.
It's exactly what happened. It was in the Discover Mage.
Right.
It was like, I mean, if you can put it in, if you win the mirror, and the mirror can be quite difficult. You need to try and gain that advantage somehow, but Orange feeling very happy about himself, having a little chuckle away there, and they're 2-0 up. And a deserved win. They played it well, they played it right, they played it safe, and I think that was what was important.
Yeah, they realised they were in no hurry right from the very start, where they could like frostbolt the mana worm. It's like, no, we're not going to frostbolt the mana worm. We can take our time. We can get the ice block set up, and then we can use our valet more efficiently and use the frostbolt for much later on. All those little things add up at the end of a game that's quite close like that. And yeah, they got there, and it's 2-0, and they quite clearly will be feeling good about things.
Vertigo versus Powder, and Powder bringing the Shaman. We haven't seen a Shaman yet today, but he's choosing that over the Rogue. I wonder whether we will be able to dip ourselves into anything new, or whether we're going to see just the standard kind of control Shaman that's been around, the Elemental Shaman. But Warrior, I mean, we can just debate between the two. It's the debate we always have, so I think we'll talk about Shaman instead, because that seems a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, out of the 3 players that played HCT from the Swedish team this weekend, only Show played Shaman, and he played Elemental Shaman.
Okay.
So that might be a tiny pointer, although in a team like this, they're capable of playing so many things between them. Even though I made notes of what they were doing, it's like, you know what? It could be anything, because they'll just play what they feel is the best dude for the gig.
And the fact that we've gone through all 3 of these players so far for Sweden, and I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, God, these are fantastic players.
Right.
Like, how are they 1-2?
Right, exactly.
That's my fear at the moment, as I'm thinking, if they're 1-2, I'm scared for the rest of the group, because now they're going to be looking for blood, because they do not want to be going out here.
They definitely do not. And next week, Sweden play Switzerland, who are sort of propping the group up at the moment.
Yeah.
And so if Sweden win this one, you would really fancy them to take down Switzerland, and suddenly they're 3-2, and they could beat Switzerland heavily. If they win this 3-0 as well, and they haven't had any big crushing defeats yet, their losses have been fairly close. Sweden could find themselves not only 3-2 and with a tie-break, and like you say, the rest of the group is suddenly, oh my goodness, help.
Because honestly, when I looked at the players for Sweden, I had them as potential winners of the whole thing.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
Looking at the players. I mean, you've got, what else? USA as well. Canada have an extremely strong squad. I mean, Germany, I thought, would have been doing a little bit better as well.
Yeah, the German team's been sort of restructuring their lifestyles a little bit. But Russia, obviously, Ukraine, who we're going to see either today or tomorrow as well. There's a lot of powerful teams, but Sweden definitely right up there. And it's going to be Control Warrior versus Shaman.
Shaman is just Shaman nowadays, isn't it?
It's just a cop-out, because there's so many different Shamans right now that when you see this hand, you can say it's not the token face Shaman, probably. But even then, not really. And could be anything, really.
Could be anything. Could be the Jade Shaman. I mean, if even a Shaman is a Jade Shaman anymore, because they run, like, what? Just a little bit of the Jade package. They run more things. We could call them else. other stuff, but we'll just go
Other
Jade
stuff?
Shaman. Yeah, Jade Shaman works.
You've been listening to too much of my amazing wordiology.
Unfortunately, I have to watch you each week.
He's watching me. I'm scared. Okay. The Warrior just looks very standard build. Dirty Rats, Fishers, Brawl. All those cards are entirely standard. We can talk about Brawl. Some players only play one now.
Do you keep it? No.
You don't.
There's an evolve. It's not an evolve, though.
So they're hoping to catch the Pirates here.
Job's done.
By just getting rid of early
double
board.
Maelstrom.
With this keep, they're expecting Pirates. And I said at the start of the show that I expected to be more aggressive from Indonesia. So Indonesia, again, they've shown the ability to do this throughout the global games. Like, don't take us lightly. I just took them lightly. Sweden have not taken them lightly, but misjudged this game. And, you know, Indonesia are continuously outthinking their opponents in matchups.
I wonder if there's going to be any face of grimace from Powder when he sees the quest come through. Not too much of a reaction. He's like, yeah, well, probably expected it, but...
Powder's an interesting one, actually. He used to be very, very reactive to anything that went badly for him. He's been around forever, like 3 or 4 years, or 3 years ago, I'm talking here. And in recent times, he's got so much better, apparently, at the game. And, I mean, he was good anyway. But his teammates regard him as incredibly powerful at the game. And he's just got better at managing his emotions as well. And that's why he's getting touted more and more as a player we're going to see doing incredible things over the next year or so.
I guess you just have to... You have to hero power here. Yep, you do.
Yeah.
And now, so this matchup then, Neil, it's going to get to a point where, of course, Vertigo is just going to play taunt after taunt after taunt,
right.
Get into a nice position and try and complete the quest. Are we going to see anything from Powder that's going to be able to combat that? Perhaps something like Spirit Echo? Do you think that could be in the deck?
Probably a Spirit Echo, maybe a Bloodlust, maybe 2 Bloodlusts, who knows? What we will see is Sweden at least representing that. So we're going to see wide board after wide board and saying, hey, Indonesia, we're going to force the Brawl out of your hand so that later on when you get your hero power, you get your rag shots. If there's no Brawl, you can just beat them with your hero power because half the time the rag hits a 0-2 totem, and that's really sad. If you can't get the Brawls out of their hand, and especially if there's 2 of them, what happens is Indonesia just chill, and then they brawl away your board and hit you in the face for 8 repeatedly, and bad things happen to you.
Indonesia not taking the risk as well by playing one of those dirty rats. They don't want to pull anything too significant from Sweden's hand.
Yeah, this is going to be a grindy one, I think.
I mean, it usually is. Anything against Quest Warrior, if you're playing a control deck as well, it's always going to be a little bit of a grind. You have to be prepared to get to this late game.
Right.
And that's when you have to start thinking about card draw, and is this going to go to fatigue? I mean, because of Sulfuras, fatigue rarely happens, because it just will eventually hit you in the face. I mean, that's, from my perspective anyway,
I think
always
that's right
seems
against
to get
most
there.
classes, but with the Spirit Echoes and with all the stuff that Shaman
Spirit
can do,
Echoes
it
definitely
slows
change
it
that.
down so
Yeah.
much. White Eyes. Ooh.
But that's something that Indonesia are going to have to take in consideration. For
Right.
example, their slam. Are they going to be thinking here, this could go to fatigue? Can we afford to be drawing too many cards?
That's a good point, actually. I think in general, even if you get to fatigue, the fatigue doesn't decide the game. What decides the game is you've run out of stuff to do. So, not like the old days where, hey, I'm taking 14 points on turn 37 or something. Now that you can get to fatigue, where you've drawn your last card, maybe take 1 point of burn from fatigue. But the real problem is your hand is 3 cards and you're not drawing anymore. So I think they will keep cycling through.
It's usually a case of, well, Die Insect either hits face or hits one of these 7 minions, and if it doesn't, I lose.
Yeah.
That's basically how it works.
That's how they're trying to... That will be Sweden's plan, is to make it that hard for Indonesia. Indonesia's plan will be to preserve their brawls and make that 50-50, not a 1 in 7. For instance, in one of the many universes where this game can unfold.
Not an easy turn next turn for Sweden, though. I mean, everything... Well, since turn 1, it's been awkward for them, to be honest. You don't really want to be playing Jinyu here. You want to be able to play White Eyes on turn 5. You could just Maelstrom for a 1-drop if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's going to be on their mind. With the Devolves, maybe they'll save it, so they've got some sort of power. They've got Blood Mage as well, obviously. But it will be on their mind at some point, hey, when do we use these Maelstroms? How do we get more out of them? And the idea will be to probably use them to do 4 or 6 damage in 1 turn with both of them added together. Like just keep making sure you've got a spell damage totem, and then you go pew, probably with Devolve and clear the board.
Meanwhile, these dirty rats are just sitting there, Neil. And Dirty Rat is something that I hate when I'm playing against it, because it always seems to win that 1 in 3 and pull like the really garbage card.
Yeah, not the Tyrion.
Yeah,
it never pulls Tyrion.
There's Tyrion. But it's one of those risk and reward cards, right? And Indonesia, I think it's too much of a risk right now because they're worried of things like white ties.
Right, and they're saving it as well, so that if they want to brawl on the same turn, they can do a bit of a, hey, I might win with my Dirty Rat, and I'll get rid of the thing out of your hand. Maybe literally the thing from below out of your hand, in fact.
Yeah.
But no, they just decide to make me look silly and themselves.
And I feel the frustration instantly.
Yeah, a bit of a different demeanour about Vertigo today as well. He has been one of the most excitable, happy guys to be here. And obviously he's deep in concentration today, as he has been all along, but even more today because suddenly Indonesia have got themselves this 2-in-1 position and they're facing a defeat, and that's going to put it all in the melting pot. And their last match is China. So they want to get it done against Sweden. With the best respect to Sweden, China's almost as good as Sweden or as good as Sweden are, and Indonesia just got to get one done.
So double Maelstrom can clear this board and is a good way of trying to encourage out a brawl as well.
Yeah, I like it. And the other thing I think that makes it good is they're kind of a cluttery, right? When are we going to get a better Maelstrom than right now, when we can actually kill some stuff and force a lot of damage to face? Let's just get it done. The downside is you empty your hand a bit. The upside is you've just picked up a Mana Tide totem, which can sit behind a thing from below if there is a brawl. And if there's not a brawl, you've just kind of won.
And the Devolve might become important. I know we were talking about the Devolve earlier in combination with the Maelstrom portal, but it might become important just to make a taunt not a taunt. And so you can go face and finish off a game. That can be where Devolve can just flat out win you a game.
It just acts like a silence.
Yeah. I mean, it's risky. It has its risks as well, but of course, everything does.
Everything has risks. All right, they're going to use one of them up and not the other. So just going to sit behind the white eyes here. Best flavor text in the game.
White eyes?
Yeah. Do you know it?
I don't.
You don't? Well, you should.
Oh.
Go home.
Okay, sorry.
My life for Aya. Being Aya Blackpool,
yeah.
Not Aya out of StarCraft.
Ah, I can see that.
Can you?
Why is that your favourite flavor text?
Because it's funny.
There's a lot of funny flavor text.
Like?
Damn, you got me.
Like Biteweed, for instance.
Biteweed's funny.
There you go. Anyway.
It's not quite as funny as Edwin Van Leaf. I mean, that's my favourite.
That's on Biteweed?
Yeah. I know.
I hate you so much.
It's okay, at least we can hate each other. I'm joking, I love you really, Neil.
Yeah, you can't see us kissing on camera right now, which is probably for the best.
It is probably for our best.
Don't worry, Rachel, we're not really.
Yeah,
okay.
No brawls at the moment, so no brawl is going to be encouraged out by Sweden. But the execute is big enough to just deal with the immediate threat that is 5 damage that could be clearing the board or going to face.
Interesting to listen to, or to look at Sweden talking there whilst Indonesia are playing, because this isn't a game where they're going to make a short-term mistake. Like they can see, you and I could play this hand and do fairly well with it, but they're looking at what they're going to do in turn 10, turn 15. How is the game going to unfold? I was going to say evolve there, but maybe we'll see one of those as well.
Unfortunately not, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
I mean, it is something that, as you said, has cropped up lately in the meta, but
yeah, their decisions making is going to be, hey, shall we just wait until thing from below costs 0? Shall we go for maximum efficiency on everything, or do we need to get a move on? And they can afford to be pretty efficient. This Volcano will clear up some sort of board later on if they actually lose the board. There may be a turn where they just take a breather and go, okay, Volcano everything, play 2-0 casting cost things from below, play Spirit Echo, get those back, play them again. 4 5/5s for no mana.
We've got 2 hexes as well. I mean, immediately, what do you think are your biggest hex targets coming from a Quest Warrior?
I'll just say just anything, but there's enough, like Primordial Drake, there's 6/9s later on with taunt, just any taunt minion. The problem they have is they don't want to play the thing from below, they want it to reduce cost for later. And with this hand, they want to be generating pressure. They can get through any board the opponent throws at them, and they're just going to sit and wait to generate pressure. They were thinking about playing the Jinyu there.
Yeah.
You know what, I just can't be bothered.
They were reluctant to play Jinyu there. Maybe they're worried about over-committing to the board and then the brawl coming down. I don't know.
It just shows what a long game they're playing. It's 6 healing later on. It's an extra shot from the hero power they can just deflect.
It's a long game that they can win. That's the important
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
So they're not hurrying. And what we've seen from all the best teams, Russia do it masterfully, is just doing nothing. Something that improving Hearthstone players don't do well. We're talking even rank 5 players don't do well, is they don't do nothing well. They've got in their head, must be mana efficient, must be blah blah efficient. Sometimes it's just like, oh, right, just hero power go.
Yeah. Think about the turns ahead. Think about how you're going to win the game. Think about 4 turns ahead. I think that's what's important. There are a lot of people who will just think 1 turn ahead, but it's just thinking that extra 2 or 3.
And I think 4 turns ahead against Pirate Warrior and die on turn 3.
It's okay. It happens to the best of us, my friend. Luckily, Powder, this isn't a Pirate Warrior. I wonder, actually, if this would have been a better matchup for Indonesia if it was. But there is plenty of taunts and stuff that would have made them struggle, and actually that double Maelstrom Portal start would have
it would have been. I mean, don't forget, Powder kept a hand that was good against Pirates, and he's still getting himself into a position of strength. That being said, Indonesia are tootling along with this quest, and they've got the double Primordial Drake. They are going to be able to build a board at least once themselves, and Primordial Drake is really good against totems and 2-1s, it turns out. Who knew?
And the Armsmith is one of those big hex targets, as you said, just taunt minions in general, but not allowing him to build up any armor gain is going to be huge. And you're quite right, they are teetering along with that quest now, and as soon as it does come, as soon as it is completed, then they need to start hitting those big targets though, and that's when they really need that brawl. I mean, I think it's Raven who says it every time, that the brawl into Sulfuris, into hero power is always massive.
Yeah,
on
it's a thing I may have been known to say occasionally as well. But yeah, also Primordial Drake with the hero power later on. So you clear off all the gubbins that can eat up the 8, and then just take a much better shot. Having already not used those brawls, they are looking okay, Indonesia here. But they're not, okay, relatively speaking. We've already gone through all the strengths of Sweden. Just looking how Indonesia aren't out of this yet. They are going to get a chance to fire a few shots at face. And that might be why Powder is just keeping back this Jinyu Water Speaker. It's like, you hit me, I unhit me.
I unhit me.
Unhit.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
My play here would be different if I knew if I had a Spirit Echo in my deck, I think.
Right.
I'd be tempted to play Storm Guardian or Alakin now.
I think the fact they've held onto this thing from below so long means they have.
But they might just want to get maximum value out of it.
They might. But there was a turn where they didn't play anything.
It seems like, for me, Sweden have just been so patient, and they're saying, well, we've still not seen a brawl, but we've still got an annoying enough board that they might have to do it at some point. As soon as we put a big minion on the board, are we going to lose value? Because then that's when the brawl comes.
Yeah, I think they are playing with Spirit Echo in mind though. They're playing the most expensive minions, which is also a nod to that. Obviously, it's got charged, so they would play it anyway. But you want to play the cheap stuff on the same turn as the Spirit Echo, and I think that's why when they passed a turn earlier, when they had mana available and they had Thing from Below available, I don't think they were going for value. I don't think they're going for that short term. I think there will be a Spirit Echo. Otherwise, the deck doesn't make as much sense. But there's no Jade, so maybe there isn't a Spirit Echo.
1 taunt away from completing the quest, and dealt with all those pesky, annoying totems as well with the Drake.
That's a N'Zoth.
That is N'Zoth.
And they got a
as well.
White Eyes from their Stonehill earlier.
They did, yeah.
So that's a good start. Is that the only death battle we've seen?
I believe so.
The reason I haven't sat here going, hey, this is a N'Zoth.
Because there's not been a load of death battles, yeah.
Right.
But Jinyu is finally going to get its value onto Alakir here. That is the second hex used now, though, so no immediate removal from Sweden to deal with any big old taunts.
Yep.
Still no brawl.
This has been really weird. I think both sides are just waiting for their key cards, and obviously waiting is good for Warriors because they get trundling along. We're nearly there now at the quest.
Yep, 1 more. They will complete it if they just play 1 taunt here. And it's a good turn to complete it, actually. You could complete it with the Tar Creeper if you wanted.
Alright, off you go.
Okay, this works.
Knock yourselves out, start shooting things. And of course now this is going to generate a load of card advantage, but Shamans generate card advantage as well just by pressing the magic button.
I couldn't decide if I preferred Tar Creeper or Bloodhoof here. Tar Creeper having a 3 attack on your own a turn I thought was nicer, but I guess they both do similar things, and the extra 1 HP might be important.
And they may have not wanted to do anything else with the mana that turn,
Yeah.
although they could have slammed and then traded into the Alakir. So that was an option they had there if they wanted to save mana with the Tar Creeper. Oh no, there's only one. They would have been short. I'm me.
But regardless, the Quest Warrior has completed its quest, and now it's the aim of the game for Sweden to go as wide as possible.
Yeah.
But they haven't seen any brawls, and I think that's what their concern will be, because at the moment, all they can go wide with, realistically, is big minions. Yes, okay, they could Hero Power, they could Maelstrom if they want to, but they're going to be reluctant to put too much on the board.
And that Dirty Rat has been in hand for Indonesia since time began, which means that Sweden will have a read on that, and that read, they will realise it could be Dirty Rat, but the read will probably be, that is a brawl. That is the logical conclusion to draw. You put no pressure on. Indonesia still on 32. You haven't made them cast a brawl, so there's probably a brawl, and you can identify a couple of cards that have been there forever.
Devolve finally going to get its value as well.
Interesting, yeah, they're just going to do it and get 9 damage through. Oh, need to kill that. That can have very adverse effect on your health total.
Get rid of that bad boy, and I think do you just stop there? No? Okay.
I think you have to force the brawl. I don't think it's scary enough. If they've got a way of killing Alakir off and then they shoot something down as well, I think you've got to say, look, brawl, for goodness sake, get on with it. Get it over with.
So Drake plus Die Insect can get a better Die Insect here. I guess you could kill off Alakir as well, regardless of what happens with your face here, so... They could be in a good position. If the Die Insect hits the 5-3 or Alakir here...
Is it a really good position, or is it just a position that looks good? I can't quite tell.
It's a comfortable position.
Comfortable.
And I like being in comfortable positions.
Yeah, the way you sort of chill in your chair.
Like,
just naturally comfortable in your hosting role.
That's how Indonesia are feeling right now. They're like, okay, we're not too worried about it. That's a second devolve.
Correct.
By the way.
Extra points.
Which could become very important later down the line.
Yeah.
If Indonesia start getting even lower with the life total and start building up a wall.
And of course, we all know, but just a reminder that now the Warrior Hero Power is gone. There'll be no more armoring up, although there is obviously that shield block, so every time Sweden can sneak some damage through, that damage is, I mean, it's always permanent, but it's super permanent. It's never going to be healed up. And so they can make a game plan that involves just sneaking damage through over the next few turns. They're not dying anytime soon, you would think.
I'm wondering how tempted Powder is with a devolve again here.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, is another chance to get 6 damage through. He's going to play Nazoth into White Eyes and just go with, that's plenty. And then we get a second Storm Guardian.
Thanos as well.
Oh, yeah.
Which could be significant in terms of just getting that extra card and maybe finding, I don't know, extra damage, more to put on the board.
Yeah, they are starting to get through their library, so
yeah,
something they need to keep an eye on. My life for Ion doesn't quite work.
Almost, though.
I won't do that one then. All right.
Slam plus Ravaging Ghoul is a great way to deal with 2 of the minions. Then you've got Die Insect. Actually, you can possibly clear the whole board if you want to here. So Indonesia have gone from comfortable to even more comfortable. They're starting to put their foot up on the table.
Right, and they're going to start firing fire at people from that position of comfort. And yeah, that's going to make Sweden have to actually do stuff, which they haven't to this point really had to do.
Yeah, it's a case of, okay, we may have to just stick a 10-10 on the board and hope it can't be removed.
Yeah, I mean, they've got that Volcano. Looks like a good time. There's exactly 15 health on the board. That seems like an important number right now. It's also starting to look like Indonesia might well only have 1 Brawl in their deck.
So Volcano plus Storm Guardian seems very strong.
Yeah, and then you've got to choose whether you want to play Thing from Below as well, or just let the Storm Guardian eat the damage half the time and not actually die. Because if Indonesia face tank you with a weapon, you don't really mind. And they've kept their devolve so that they can get through with Storm Guardian if there's a taunt played. And if Indonesia face tank 10, again, Sweden probably don't mind that too much.
It depends what route they want to go down. They want to go down the route of what we were discussing earlier, going as wide as possible, so they would Volcano, maybe Hero Power plus Manatide Totem, and hope that the Die Insect is just negligent and it just does nothing and it's just pointless, or whether they go for the Storm Guardian and hope that they can just emit as much damage as possible over the next couple of turns to win this game.
So the volcano is the obvious bit. It does exactly 15, which, you know, seems to be pretty efficient to me. And yeah, they're obviously looking for something. They're just going to keep playing the mana type by the look of it. That means they're going to hero power and just say, okay, we're going to wait one more turn. Oh, they don't know. Did it get played? It did get played. Okay.
It's wide enough to be a nuisance.
And it's defending the 5/5 as well as defending your face.
Yes.
Okay. We get it. We get it, Sweden.
We got it, Sweden. We're there with you. Gluttonous Ooze is a nice tech in. Might actually help. That extra little bit of armor could come into play later on if they do destroy the Fiery Rorax that we can see in the hand of Indonesia. But now we're playing the game, what do they search for? They need to shield block here, look for more. Hope for to win this 1 in 3.
Interesting, yeah. They're going to take this down to a 1 in 3 or 1 in 2 if you count the face as a win, which I don't know if it is or not. It probably isn't at this point, but it kind of is.
It's
because 2 more of those, you win the game.
It's better than it's better than hitting the mana tide, that's for sure. But now Sweden are in a position where they can drop the Storm Guardian if they want to next turn. They're already like, well, whatever. We've not seen the brawls yet. Let's just try and put lethal on the board here.
Yeah, it's getting really, really what's the word? Tight. But double White Eyes into double Storm Guardians should be pretty good. I guess the other question is, do you devolve this? This denies them another big taunt
this is
later.
What I'm thinking, yeah, Neil. I'm thinking, do I devolve here? Possibly go face with my thing from below. Drop a Storm Guardian as well and set up lethal.
And deny them a 6/9 in their deck.
Deny them a 6/9 in their deck whilst you're at it as well.
They still probably think, there haven't been that many brawlable boards, right? Even now.
The widest they went was just dealt with by Primordial Drake.
So there was no need to brawl it. So that Dirty Rat that has been there a little while. Oh, is that the other Dirty Rat now? Sorry, I think the first Dirty Rat
they did play one. Yeah, that brought the first White Eyes onto the board, if you remember.
Yeah. I remember.
That second one's been
got a good memory.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast, Neil, so I'm glad you...
You had Nesquik.
See, you're on the ball. Yeah, I'm glad. Glad someone's here to remember my dietary option.
Right, so Sweden going wide, and again, we've seen the Primordial Drakes. It's just going to be, deal with this or we get it. We're going to get you.
Yeah, saving the devolve for that lethal opportunity, I think. Whilst it was tempting there to deny the extra taunt in their hand and to get the damage to face, it's there if they need it to push the damage to finish the game off. There's the Hatchling's bigger brother straight off out of the deck.
Can't actually trigger these Acolyte of Pains to get the card draw, and suddenly they are facing a whole bunch of stuff, and they've still managed to maintain that devolve. Again, the patience that you and I haven't had with this devolve compared to Sweden is why they're there, we're here.
It is. Like I agree with
good option. There's been good options.
I think they would have been discussing the same things that we were, to be honest. There is the option to use the devolve here, but do we need to?
Yeah. And just in general, if you can be greedy, greed is good in this game, as long as you get away with it in moderation.
So again, they won't have the option for devolve to finish the game off here, unless they draw a Bloodlust. No, that's just another Death Rattle.
Well, that's actually really, really good against the hero power, of course.
It is.
This Tidal Surge is really important as well, because it puts you past a magic number of 16. Going to 17 is just so key. Because I don't think that Indonesia hit you in the face with their minions ever again. There we go.
That's the second time we've seen him today.
Yeah, Indonesia wish it was the second time they'd seen him after that Tempo Mage versus Discover Mage earlier.
Okay, so a really good position now. And this is exactly what you were talking about way back at the start of the game, Neil. Where, yes, okay, the Quest Warrior has completed their quest, but the board is now so wide and there's so much possibilities for them to hit a minion they don't want to hit, that now Sweden are looking in good nick to possibly win this.
Yeah, and Sweden are no longer testing for Brawl. They have worked out it's not there, I think. And again, with these players only playing one Brawl a lot of the time, then... Excuse me, just lost my train of thought there. Yeah, with the people only playing one Brawl, I think Sweden worked out. I think it would have gone by now.
So, there's an Execute. I don't think that's going to help, though. There's no Brawl.
Just not going to help. I think this is going to be either it or near enough it, depending what gets hit here. Do they have to Dirty Rat in a minute? I mean, they must know they're in deep trouble. They must know that they've got the Storm Guardian in hand by now as well.
I mean, if they Dirty Rat, I think it's pretty much game over. Tidal Surge in hand as well, able to just combine with pretty much any minion on board.
Yeah, they're just going to buy themselves one more turn. I assume they'll stick the double Acolyte down just to try and draw some outs next turn as well.
Oh, okay, well...
That's good as they see it, but the Tidal Surge is going to... Surge? Is going to disappoint them greatly here. I think we will see the taunt come up from Sweden, though, in case of a crazy rogue weapon coming out. You have indeed got to move.
As you said, that Tidal Surge is going to be the difference maker here. Without it, there was always that chance, and it's what
the thing we spoke
it's
about.
actually what I was, what I was bringing out.
Yeah.
Like that's the only option. It gets to that point where you just have to win what, like 1 in 5 or 1 in 6. There's that
Spirit Echo that Sweden have waited for the whole game, and this just shows how greedy you can be with this deck. They've basically waited for this Spirit Echo forever. It's really slowed down their development at times. It has pushed them a little bit close to the limit. But Hearthstone's not about being close, it's about yes or no at the end of the game. And one of the reasons these guys do so well is they push the limits. They've saved this Tidal Surge until they actually needed to. Whereas, you know, other players may have got themselves to 17 to resist the 2 blows.
So, if they use Tidal Surge and Jinya, I think that's the safest option. But you've also got to be worried about damage coming through. I was thinking if they just Tidal Surge and White Eyes, and then a Brawl came out, the Acolyte won, then that's when it gets interesting.
Interesting, yeah, it really does. Good call. This is also where you need to be organised as a team, by the way. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting options here, and you need some of your guys just not to interject unless they know that it's a better play than one you're suggesting. Luckily, when you've got a team like Sweden, you can just tell one of your guys to randomly be quiet, and you've still got 3 of the best players in the world, so it's fine.
Yep, the 6 health better than just what was going to come out from Tidal Surge.
And again, what you were talking about there, 8 to face plus 2 from the Acolytes if there's some sort of weird tech that gets rid of 10-10s, like... Oh, just Ghoul and the other thing that they do, Execute, would have done it.
Unfortunately, we've seen both Execute.
But Ghoul and something. Something would have done it, and they just play around every eventuality, basically.
Unfortunately, nothing there. Bloodhoof Brave's not going to save them. Dirty Rat isn't going to save them.
And just for a moment there, we saw why Powder got his name.
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? I saw that as well.
I thought I was finally...
covered in snow.
Gone over the hill, but yeah, that's how Powder got his name.
So Indonesia will continue to search, see if there is any outs. I don't think there are. I'm fairly certain, I'm 99% certain they've seen them. There's the Brawl.
That's an out.
Okay, actually, I was saying anything else, but boom, that could make a difference.
That Dirty Rat finally gets its job done. Now it needs to really do its job. So there's a 1 in 8 they win this, but then there's another decent shot from the rag shot. So the cumulative effect is they've got a chance of getting out of trouble here.
Dirty Rat doesn't win. It's just a totem. I mean, they're still alive, Neil.
They're still alive!
Until the Jade Lightning comes off the top. And celebration from Sweden. They're happy. That got a little bit close to the wire. They thought they were comfortable. I thought they were comfortable, but Brawl eventually was drawn. Little too late, though, as Sweden will win this one 3-0 against Indonesia, and they will find themselves 2-2 in the league table rather than 1-3, which would have been a difficult place for them.
Yeah, and a 3-0 win in case there is a giant sort of level tiebreaker need. A 3-0 could be important there. Indonesia will have to take their chance with China to get to that 3-2. Feel a bit sorry for them, but Sweden have shown why they're one of the best regarded teams in the whole event.
Definitely, and we can see which decks were brought by all of the players there as well. And you're completely right, they were just patient, to be honest, especially at the end there. Powder really taking his time, really knowing the strengths of his deck. They were waiting a long time for that Spirit Echo that didn't come through in the end. But a nice 3-0 victory. Indonesia, as you said, will feel a little bit hard done by. They did struggle here and there, but ultimately Sweden just the stronger force, and it's hard to not realise that when it's Show, Orange and Powder playing your first 3 games, and you had a backup of Osaka as well.
Just casually have a world champion!
I mean, their team is phenomenal, to be honest, and that's no discredit to Indonesia. I was surprised that Indonesia were ahead, but perhaps now we can start to see the rise of Sweden coming back through the ranks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Their last game, of course, will be Switzerland, whenever that is, sometime in the next 3 weeks it has to be. So we're going to have an interview now, I believe.
Yeah, one of the winning players, I believe we're going to have a little chat to. It is going to be Powder. Can you hear me, my friend?
I can, hello.
Congratulations, that was a very comfortable victory. Were you perhaps expecting that one to be a little bit closer, or do you think you prepared very well?
I think we've prepared pretty well for all the weeks so far, and today it just kind of went our way, which hasn't been the case the other week, so it felt good.
Yeah, I was looking through your playoff decks, and all of the three of you who went to the playoffs played a different variant of Druid. Who has the final say when it comes to something like that?
It depends on the deck, I guess. Most for certain decks, for Druid, it's mostly Oskaka. He's played the most aggro Druid out of all of us, so he gets kind of the final say.
In that last matchup as well. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No worries. I was
okay, you were just umming and ahhing. That's okay. In the last matchup then, the Shaman versus the Warrior, how comfortable were you as soon as you saw that quest come out? Because you had mulliganed, it seemed, for Pirate Warrior. Did you still think it was a comfortable game?
I think the entire game we were just pretty sure we were going to win as soon as we drew Spirit Echo.
Eventually,
yeah.
Yeah, it didn't happen, but it was actually a pretty funny story because the reason we kind of started laughing, I started laughing when I drew the Jade Lightning was because it wasn't supposed to be in the deck. And we were talking about it because we looked at the deck list, and then we all noticed that there's a random Jade Lightning when there's no other Jade cards in the deck. So, and then I just said before, because they were at 8 and we had the Karen body, just like, what if I just draw this Jade Lightning that I put in my deck?
No.
What if I do this? And then I do it, and then it's just like perfect lethal with the card. It's not supposed to be in there.
Amazing. That's a brilliant story. Congratulations again, dude. Best of luck in your future weeks, and maybe we'll see you in the second stage.
Thank you. See you guys.
Take care.
Accidentally had Jade Lightning.
Because I was looking at it, I hadn't quite registered how ridiculous it was. I'm looking at it thinking, this is interesting. We haven't seen any of the Jade
package, but it just came out at the right time. That's Hearthstone.
Lesson there is when you register your decks and you send in the pictures, don't start playing Hearthstone. Keep that all together. Because if you register the decks and you dismantle it and you try and rebuild it how you think it should be, that could have been a mistake waiting to happen.
Yeah, definitely. You need to be on top of your deck submissions. But, I mean, they knew it was there eventually. They were like, oh, yeah, that Jade.
Well, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
He found it was in there, and they managed to not change the deck to what they thought it should be. They've actually kept the submission the same. Yeah. Wow.
It's surprising, but at the same time, it's also a nice little story for them. And as they said, they were just waiting for that Spirit Echo. There was the possibility, because of that brawl coming through, there was a slight chance of Indonesia maybe getting back into that one. If the Jade Lightning wasn't drawn there, there was a chance, because I think they could only have healed themselves up. Oh no, maybe they could have got themselves up to 10. I'm just trying to think, because they had Tidal Surge plus the Spring Guardian as well. So it might have been okay
anyway.
So it might have been okay anyway, but either way, it was getting a little bit risky. But in the end, that Jade Lightning was absolutely massive for Sweden. And it's nice that they can kind of go home after. Well, they're already home. They can communicate after with this one and have a little laugh with each other about that as well.
Although they will be watching the next match really closely, as we'll see in a minute. It's going to be China and Switzerland, and that affects this group in a lot of different ways. We just see there the brawl finally being drawn, but way too late to really impact. There was just that moment where everything started going face, where you think, well, maybe they get this, but no, not really.
How much does that affect you mentally, though, if you're in the opposition team and you go and watch it back, and they're like, Jade Lightning wasn't meant to be in the deck. And that would like tilt me.
I think that they could see though that they were under. If they do watch it back, which I'm sure they will,
of course,
they can see all of those taunt minions, all those minions that have just been held onto. Like Sweden weren't really pushed in that last game. They held onto so much value. Or like you say, it just looked for a moment like they might get into trouble.
Let's take a look at the group standings then and see how that's affected them. As we said, Sweden have moved up to 2-2, so they've put themselves in a better position. Indonesia will be tied with them, and as we said, later on we've got China versus Switzerland. That's going to be next, so again, an important game. If Switzerland were able to take that one, then Sweden will be feeling even better after that
and game. So will Switzerland, because if Indonesia had won, it'd be out of sight.
Yep.
But if Switzerland win this next one, and I mean they may need to win it sort of 3-0, 3-1 to build their game record up, they could quite easily get to 2 or 3 wins in this division as well. And suddenly the whole of this group is blown open. And Bulgaria just sitting there pretty going, well, if we win our last game, we don't really care about you lot.
A really close group, and closer than I think a lot of people would have expected.
Yes.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Mainly with Sweden being in the position that they were.
Yeah, and China. I mean, China we thought were going to be a powerhouse in this group, and they've had a lot of other stuff on there. They've been struggling.
They have been struggling, but we are going to be moving on to China versus Switzerland next. So that's going to be in a few minutes. So don't go anywhere, guys. We will be back very shortly.
We're almost there. Quiet down, everyone. This is not like any of our previous expeditions. This will be far more ambitious. We're stepping into a land of primordial wonder. Infused with astonishing elemental energies. The plant life here holds very unusual properties. So don't touch anything. And while you may be excited to see the local fauna, you might want to make sure they don't see you. Because their powers of adaptation are devastating. Make no mistake, we will be tested at every turn. But if we stay on our guard, we might just survive. Now then, are you ready? Then let's journey into Ongoro Crater.